The alarm's going off, man. Stop hitting snooze. I need you. If you're looking to feel like warm and fuzzy inside, like I'm your guy, so they're in my top 20 EHL teams for sure. There's emotion, there's hatred. This is not like a very friendly series. It's like SpongeBob when he's got like the napkin and like the potato chip. Like that's how I feel. Listen, Colson, I didn't have fun. Everything in my body hurts right now. The team that has the lead in the second period is just not going to win that game. There's no need for air quotes. He's tardy all the time. It's the American thing to do. I was alive, just not buried. No, don't get pucks deep. Hang on to the puck. Pass the puck. Shoot the puck. Are we live? Are we live? We're having a good time. JKP, baby. JKP. Hello, E-Show, and welcome into our third edition of the Summer Coaches Series of the E-Show podcast. Today, we have New York Apple Corps head coach Josh Fusco here joining us. Coach, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And we'll start with last offseason, getting the call from Mr. Santini after a couple stops before your last season in the EHL. But one of the most historic franchises calls you in a time that they needed someone. What did that mean to you, Coach?
It it honestly meant the world to me. As far as my career goes as a coach and just my hockey career in general as a whole. Neil Ravin gave me the call to see if I was interested and was like, "Hey, Apple Corps is looking for a coach, and what are you doing?" And I was kind of like, "Oh, really?" Like, no, right? And I've known Mr. Santini for a while, obviously being in the league, and my dad and him used to like coach against each other when my dad coached junior back in the day. And then obviously for myself, like growing up in New York, playing in New York and in various junior leagues on the East Coast here, like you just always knew who Apple Corps was. And you kind of hit the nail on the head there when it comes to one of the most historic franchises. So at first it was a little like shocking, and then it kind of settled in. And honestly, the person that I was sitting with when I got the call, like we just was like, New York Apple Corps? Like really? Like, well, this is a no-brainer, right? And yeah, it was a great conversation with Steve, and like I said, I wasn't too far away, so I came down to Brewster for a day and hung out, and it was kind of just I knew I was taking a job before I even got here. But yeah, it was pretty surreal and obviously pretty special. I think for me, as far as my career and the things I've done throughout my career, like this one definitely is at the top of the list.
And it did mean, though, that it was your first time not coaching in the South Division. So did you miss anything about, playing that South style of hockey? And what did you notice was different about the Central?
Yeah, I didn't really think about that a whole lot. Like the EHL is the parity across the league is there, right? And I don't think it really matters on the divisions. Like obviously every division kind of has its own like special identity. Being in the South for as long as I was with Wilkes-Barre in Maryland, you knew what to expect, right? Every day, you knew what to expect every year. You knew everybody was going to have a good team, a heavy team, a physical team, and um, you know, I think like the Central Division kind of changed and evolved over the years. Last year it was a pretty strong division, and obviously like I was around it a little bit there, helping out Providence towards the end of the season. So I knew what to expect, and I knew Providence was going to be a good team. I knew their style, I knew HCRI was going to be a very skilled, fast team. Um, so there wasn't a big shock or really a big difference, Jake. It was, I think the Central Divisions is more leaning towards the pace of play, good puck movement and the parity. Like it was a pretty close division for the most part, like game wise. Like we beat HCRI, we beat Providence, we went back and forth with Nor'easter. Like it just was one of those things where like you had to show up every day, and that was just our division, and that was the makeup. And I expect that to be the future as well this upcoming season.
100%. And we'll get into some of those big wins and the games against some of those elite teams in just a little bit. But for this upcoming season, you're going to have the benefit of a full recruiting season to work with. So is there a certain mold or style that you're looking to get the jump on this offseason when looking at players?
Um, yeah, like I think it's obviously it's nice that I have a full recruiting season. I have a full off season to recruit. So you can pick and choose your players, obviously, a little bit more. Um, and I think that was the problem with us this year is like it took us a long time to find an identity. Um, because we were building the team as the season went along, and guys were coming in, and I honestly I don't think we found an identity until like the last 2 months of the season of who we really were and what our makeup was, right? So it is, it is tough to say. It's early on of like what do you exactly want? I think my biggest focus on recruiting is just the mentality of the player, right? Guys that want to embrace the logo, what it means to play for Apple Corps. That's a big thing. Like, I wear this logo with pride, and I want the players, doing the same thing, and I think that's important. And taking pride in that, like, you're playing for New York Apple Corps, and you got to have that mentality. So, the conversations that I'm having with players and stuff, it's more getting to know them. I really want to know them as a person, not just as a hockey player. I want to know what their mindset is, what their goals are. Um, and obviously to compete. Like I want to be a hard competing team, that we're tough to play against every day. A good puck movement team. I think we lacked that a little bit at times last year, and we need to get back to that. And again, it's the Central Division. Anything can happen. So it's just finding guys that want to compete and be here every single day, enjoy coming to the rink, and having that hockey player mentality. There's a big difference between being a hockey player and playing hockey, and that's like it really is, and that's what I'm trying to identify with recruiting.
100%, 100%. And, like you said, we think the Central is going to be wide open as well this upcoming season. But despite jumping in later in the offseason last year, it was still a huge jump ahead for the Apple Corps organization as a whole from the 2024-25 season. You tripled the team's point total, similar in terms of wins, you tripled it. So how much pride do you take in what you guys were able to accomplish and how far the team came along, especially by the end of the season?
Yeah, I every year, like, we always reflect, right? Like we reflect with the players, and then we reflect as coaches, and um I think again, like for myself, like it was one of those years where you had to make some adjustments and kind of adapt a little bit, and one of those for me was mentally adapting, and making sure that I'm staying engaged with the task at hand of developing these guys, these young men. Um, so when I say that, like, it's my first season below 500 as a coach. So it was a little, and I didn't put a lot of emphasis on the standings, especially towards the end of the season. Like it was more, let's focus on us. Let's focus on you as a player. What are we doing every day? Like, what are we doing on the ice? Like, how can we get that old cliche saying like get 1% better every day? Like, I was taking it like let's get 5% better today, right? As an individual, I think there's a ton of positives. Obviously, like you said, like tripling the wins. I think at one point in time, we were like the second best power play in the league at one point in time. We were first in PK at one point in time. Uh, you got to take those little things, and we really did. Like, we really embraced like those little bitty wins, those tiny wins like that, like stuff like that with the special teams, and like our shorthanded goals, like how many, like we were up there for a while. And then obviously, I think you got to take those little things and roll with it, and that's what we were doing, and that was the message at the end of the season. Like, it's tough, like that's a tough conversation. um when that buzzer goes off. I mean, fortunately we were in the playoffs, um so it was still like there was a fight there, so you don't have that speech prepared. And I think that was the biggest message. And I gotta tell you, like Brewster Ice Arena, it's one big family. Like, Mr. Santini's an amazing guy. Dave Santini in the pro shop is amazing with our players. All the rink staff and the game day operation staff, like Justin and Tim. Yeah, like, and that right there was a win for me. I get emotional with these guys, especially after the season, and for staff members to want to come into that dressing room and congratulate the players on a season, like that, I've never had that happen before, and that just shows you like how special of a season it was. And I think for the players, for them, it helped them feel better about the season. It helped them feel better about what we accomplished. And again, the EHL, I think almost every coach reached out to me about how far we came from day one, and several owners in the league as well, and a lot of college coaches were pretty happy and impressed to see, and there was a lot of college coaches that spoke to me about players coming back and who's coming back, and they're excited to see Apple Core next year, and that's what you want, and especially the rink. I think from day one, when it was announced I was hired, like everybody was excited, but the buzz in the building and the buzz around the building, even now, everybody's like ready to go for next year, and those are the wins for me, right? And I think for the players, those are the wins as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and definitely emphasize the people at Brewster are second to none for sure.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier about the difference between playing hockey and being a hockey player. Where does that difference fall for you?
That's a good question. I think a lot of look. I don't, and I tell these guys all the time. I even tell them in film, like we do some film sessions where there's clips of like, Division One or maybe some pro hockey. I take the approach of these guys are pro hockey players, right? They're elite athletes, and that's what I mean by that difference right there. Like you're not just showing up, throwing your gear on, getting on the ice and going through the motions, right? Like you're showing up every day, like it's your job. This is your job. Um, you're coming in, you're doing your off ice warm up, you're getting engaged. We have video session. You get on the ice for practice, and again with the arena, the ice is unlimited for these guys. Like, we have two sheets. We have the studio sheet. We have the weight room, which they have full access to. So it's really kind of like a big toolbox for these guys to hone their skills and develop their game. And Matt Grogan, our goalie coach, is tremendous. Did a tremendous job with our goalies, and really put a lot of work in. And even with like video sessions with the team. Showing details and kind of just getting involved. So that's the difference right there, right? Like I think if you're just playing hockey, you're just showing up and going through the motions, and I do have these conversations with recruits and my players all the time. Like, yeah, you have your tough days. It's tough to have that mindset and compete hard sometimes, but it's what you're doing outside of the rink. It's what you're doing inside the rink. It's what you're doing in that locker room. It's what you're doing in the it's that's a hockey player, right? Taking care of yourself and the nutrition and just sorry. um it's that's the difference, right?
Yeah.
So sorry.
No, those guys agree with you. That's what they're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my dog. Yeah. She's
But no, I mean you could see that preparation and that attention to detail, especially in some of the bigger games you guys played. I think about that the win over HCRI to end their long win streak that extended from 25 into 26. The win over Philly Hockey Club you had. And then the showcase games, right? Leading against the Express, finishing in overtime, leading against the Seahawks, finishing in 1-goal fashion. All those games, you guys were able to compete with the best despite being under 500. So, how much did you and the guys learn in those games about what it took to compete against those top teams?
Yeah, like I said, the league is there's a lot of parity, and obviously you have your top teams and lower teams, right? And that's the makeup of every hockey league, um, most hockey leagues. uh, but at first, Look, like it was tough. It was a tough start to the season. Like obviously we were short on bodies, and I gotta I gotta give a big shout out to Sam Taffel down in Union. He's an amazing guy. He was my right hand man for a while. We talk almost every day. But him with Union and the P team down there, like he really helped me out. We used a lot of his players. It gave that for me recruiting right away. Adam Michka and a couple other of the boys. And then obviously, like I said, like it was a tough start. We go into that first showcase. It's like you look at the schedule and you're like, oh boy, yeah, and it was a good gauge to see where we were at. And I look, I don't want to say it because they won the championship, but and I know Bill very well, obviously, and worked with him a lot over the years, and I know his team, I know his style every year, right? And when I saw that team, I was like, man, this is a good gauge for us, but we only have this, right? And I think we were winning that game, and then they came back, and then we went to OT, right? So, but I knew right away, I was like, this team's going to be there at the end. And then as the season progressed, I was like, this team's winning it, like, and I tell you, like, my dad's my biggest fan wherever I am, and he follows us like a hawk and follows the league. He's a big fan of the league and loves the job that we do. And I he texted me when they won. He watched the championship. He was like, "You were right. You called it." But yeah, getting back to the question, like it was a good gauge. I think a lot of the boys would get up, for those games a lot more. They'd get a little bit more spunk to them, a little bit more jam. Again, like throughout the season, like it was constantly like, what's our identity as a group, and those were good gauges for us. That showcase going into the Christmas break, I think, again, not the record we wanted coming out of that showcase, but there was a lot there to be happy with and look forward to coming back from break. Um, and again, it gave hope for the group that we are a good hockey team, and it was just throughout the season it was a consistency thing, right? And you look at our scores, whether it was the Express or the Seahawks or Valley, we went back and forth with for a while. HCRI, Philly Hockey Club, we beat them. We had a couple close ones with the 87s. Split with the Little Flyers. It was just one of those things where it's like one goal or one bounce either way, like we're winning that game. A lot of those games we were winning 1-0, 2-0. Um, so again, it was teaching these. It was managing the game, and I think we kind of had that at a certain point in time. Finally, identified that less is more, right? With these guys, like there wasn't a whole lot to be said in the locker room before a game, and it was like let these players play. That's our makeup. Like they know what we're doing. They know our systems. We did it in practice. We beat it to death. Now just go play and compete and let me manage the game within the game. You guys play. And that kind of became our identity. And I think that the boys loved it and enjoyed it because it allowed them to be loose and free and be them. Because it was a tight group and it was a family, but it was also a lot of everybody's individual. I didn't build the team in the off season, so there was a lot of different personalities and styles within that group. So I think when you have games like that, man, in the last showcase, like the message was simple: turn it up 10 more levels, not just one. Like this is the last showcase of the year. This could be your last chance to be seen. Um, these got to be the best games of your career right now. Like that's the mentality walking into the arena every day at that showcase was like today's the best game of your life, and every shift you got to play like it's your last. Like that old cliche saying, but that's really what it was with this group. Um, but yeah, I mean that's another positive when you talked about like positives of the season. Like that's another positive. Like those are things to show off and be happy with, and be happy with during the off season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially when you consider just how young the team was as well. Like there was a lot of, especially on D. I mean, you had more 07s
Yeah.
than age outs on the back end, but they produced well. You know, I had a lot of good numbers back there. Um, for the defensively, when they have those kind of numbers back there, do you credit that more to the styles of the defensemen that you had? Were they more offensive minded, or was it more the team's ability to create? Because obviously you can run and gun with the best of them this year.
Yeah, I think it was the ability to create, to be honest, and the style. We had some pretty good skaters back there. And obviously that's important, right? Like you have to be able to skate. But the other thing is the IQ, um, the intangibles of being a defenseman. And honestly, like there was a lot of times where I moved a couple guys up for a couple shifts, or maybe even a game, if we had an injury, because that's how comfortable I was with everybody in that group. That group of defensemen. And really at the end of the day, age does matter, right? I guess veterans and stuff like that within the league. But I want to say, like, by mid-season, like that was like you're no longer a rookie, you're no longer a first-year guy. Like I don't care if you're an '07, like you're a veteran hockey player now in junior, and they played that way. Travis Caden, he came in late, really late. He didn't he had knee surgery in the off season. Came in to skate just to see how he felt, and I knew him from my Maryland days from back in the day, and it was like, yeah, come on in, see what's up, and if you like it, let's do it, and he looked good and he felt good, and he was a guy, again, a first year junior hockey player that was on my top power play unit. He was a steady Eddie and tough on the backside and reliable. And PK like was tremendous on the PK, and that those are high expectations to put on a kid. And then obviously we picked up a few older boys like Samoila and Gil from Providence, and they added that veteran leadership. Obviously with Sambo, he was a captain with his previous team. Smart hockey player and just a great kid and a great teammate, and I think that helped that core back there. And then Travelino, same thing, came in, wanted to be here. He's somewhat local, and he was somewhere else, and wanted to come back to Brewster. He was a Westchester kid back in the days, and um, you know, tremendous family and tremendous kid. And, he was the guy on the D side that he didn't wear a letter, but he was a captain. He really was. Obviously, he's going to Louisville, and as an '06, age, going off to school, and yeah, it was just let them play. Like honestly, like that's what it was. It was like let them play, and we beat the systems to death, throughout the season. But it got to a point towards the end where let's focus on our skills. Let's focus on discipline within the game, and let's focus on details of the game. And um, I think it was a fun group to work with back there for sure.
Absolutely, and in addition to the returners you had on the or the additions you had on the back end, I mean, guys like Quinn and Keimer up front, you were top six pieces for you. Played alongside the Gages and the Galleys.
Yep.
So when you had those opportunities to add those players, how did both you and the boys ensure that their transitions would be seamless to the team?
Yeah, you always kind of worry about that when you're bringing guys in all the time. I mean, look, we had to, and the group as a whole, and obviously Gage and Galley were, they're gonna be missed, and not just on the ice. Like Galley was a pleasure to coach and fun to coach, and Gage was a tremendous captain, and I think we developed a great relationship, and a relationship that you know player to coach. Now it's still coach, but friend, and um like they were just tremendous leaders in that locker room, and I think that helped when guys were coming in like Keimer and Quinn that were going to be top guys, and really nobody batted an eye at it because everybody knew, we didn't carry a 30-man roster, so guys knew that they were coming in to be here to help us, and they were excited because they were good players, and when we signed them and the boys knew that they were coming in, and I just think like sometimes that's tough when you get a kid like from the NA coming in or wherever, like, or somewhere else, like it can shake up the room a little bit, but it didn't affect us. And obviously Quinn, he again another player like you let him play. He's smart, and he knows the systems, and he knows how to play the game the right way for his size. And he plays like he's 6'2", and that's a great attribute to have for a player like him. And obviously he's highly skilled and quick. Um, but again, another guy that like his character and who he was like really fit the group. Um, and you don't know that right away, right? And then Keimer actually just we haven't announced it yet, but Keimer just committed to Kings, so he's going with Galley and Gage there, which is pretty incredible, But again, like you know what you're getting. Race Bennett knows what he's getting from me. He's an Apple Core alumni, so it's pretty neat. And to send three boys there right away is kind of cool. Um, but again, the same thing. Keimer, he came here from somewhere else for a reason. Trusted me with the college process. We worked through it. He had some options and trusted me on the ice. He was another guy. Like, you gotta let him play. And when I say that, like they're all coachable, right? Like that's what I look for in players. Yeah, he's highly skilled, and you kind of let him have to just play. But hey, like I'm one of those coaches. If you're not playing the systems right way, or we're running this today, or we're running this in the second period, or whatever, and you're not doing it, like they'd hear from me about it. Like I'd jump them, and yes, coach, and they would go right back out there and do it and execute it, and it takes a lot for a young kid. To be able to handle like situations like that, and again, tremendous PK guys, tremendous power play guys. Like it was just there was no shakeup in the room, and again, that goes to show you the character and the personalities of the type of players that like we want.
100%, 100%. And when I would talk to Gage and Galley, they were telling me that a lot of the schools that they were talking to wanted them together.
Yeah.
So how rewarding was that for you to see that, these schools were seeing these guys the same way that you were seeing them?
Yeah, yeah. Look, that it's obviously our job, right, to get these players to school or wherever they want to go. But it was pretty neat. Like you kind of knew right away. Like you walk out of the room after a game, and there's a coach standing there. It's like Gage and Galley, right? And look, they're really good friends. They're really close. Um, it wasn't. They didn't have that like, oh, we have to go to school together. But you saw what they did on the ice. Like the PK was tremendous, and again, that's something where this is what we're doing, right? And they executed it and they ran it, and we had success on the PK. Um, and just take aside the points and how they're two different players, really, honestly. Obviously both tremendous skaters, but like when you look at them and you really pick apart the details of their game, they're two different players and they complement each other. And it's just one of those things where it just happened to be. Um, but yeah, whatever decision they decided to make, like it was going to be a good decision. Obviously they had a bunch of schools interested and had the conversations, went on their visits. That's something that like I kind of tell these boys like go on visits, right? Don't like your first visit, you don't need to make that decision right then and there. Like a lot of these kids have never been on a college campus before. Um, obviously Gage had the pleasure of playing on the All-Star team, so he already had a few visits under his belt, right? And got to play in the college level and experience that. Will Ruel the same when we had the All-Star event in Hershey there and Nexton. Um, they knew what to expect, but go see several campuses and you're gonna know, you'll know. And then obviously the relationship with the coach, right? Like let's develop a relationship here. If you have a good the communication with the player and the coach, and that relationship, really plays a lot into it. And really, at the end of the day, it's just advising them, or giving them advice and helping them through the process. I have a lot of connections in college hockey, so obviously been doing this for a while now, and I coached at that level, so it's easy for me to help these boys and give them insight or intel. And they went to Kings, and they fell in love with it, and obviously fell in love with race. And um, you gotta be wanted and feel that want, and they really did. So they, at the end of the day, you kind of figured they were going to go together, and it happened. And now they got Keimer joining them, and it's pretty neat. But every single guy, not just them, like every guy that went to school or committed to school, and there's a lot of guys that committed to club teams, like Travelino and some Oilers on a couple visits with schools, and the same thing. Like he has some Division III offers, but he wants to go a different route in life and stuff, and he's going to play club hockey, but he's like, yeah, I want to go visit first. Same thing with Travelino. Travelino went down to Louisville and fell in love with it. And obviously got a good package. And for me, it's like, yeah, I'd love to have the kid back. uh, but that's why I'm here. And that's why I came back to the EHL for those feel good moments. Like that's for me. Those are the wins, right? We talked about earlier in this conversation. Like those are wins for me. Um, Helping these boys go to the next step in their life.
And a huge part of that wins is you mentioned Coach Taffel earlier in the Union Junior Thunder, and the opportunity you get to you'll bring those guys into the fold. Matej Farkas, Isaac Walker, who's going to be back for you guys, UJT guys, and then some other guys from around the league. Shepard, who's going NCAA after his age out season. Vasilyev's going NCAA after his age out season. So, in your time now, what have you learned about helping those guys at the premier level make that jump seamlessly? And I know you're moving on a couple of them to the NCAA level.
Yeah, I think it's again another win. Um, Shepard came from another league, wanted to come to the EHL, and wanted to be here, and needed help, needed that guidance, and he stuck with it. Like, I think that was one where it was like, you gotta stick to the process, and manage their stress. Like it's a big thing at this level, managing these boys um stress, and their workload, right, obviously, but like it gets stressful for these kids, especially towards the end of the season. The landscape's different now with recruiting in college and stuff, but he stuck with it. He worked hard, he kept his head down, and um I think we had some really good conversations together. And again, tremendous family. And I couldn't. I was so happy. Like, he told me right after that last game in the playoffs, and his dad was standing there, and just that thanks, and that those are wins for me. But yeah, Evan, same thing. Evo, like same thing, came here. Was able to get that commitment, and I think that's tremendous. Like Adam Hooley's going to get a great kid there. Um, and then obviously Walker, like uh, he's a tremendous player. He's going to be good next year, and I'm excited to have him back, especially with Quinn and a couple other guys that we have coming in. Um, yeah, Farkey did a great job, obviously, and Kubina, like he was a player that we needed to find his true identity as a player, and you know stuck with it, and trusted me, and he was a guy that played both ways. And when you talk about our decor earlier, like the new age defenseman, right? Like that's a big thing now. Offensively and playing offense, and having that ability, and he was one of those players that let's move you up front for a little bit, see what happens. And obviously he's young, so is this going to be who you are as a player, right? Let's find that. Let's just trust me, and he did. But that's credit to Sam. honestly, like Sam does a great job. He's a tremendous guy, like very humble. But he's just a good guy, and he does a lot for these kids, and really puts a lot of work in and a lot of effort in. And honestly, for me, like, yeah, we don't have a P team here in Apple Core, but yeah, he's our affiliate. At the end of the day, and he does the things right way. And that's important to me, is do things the right way, and treat these players the right way. And it's a great partnership. It really is. And um, it really, hats off to Sam and the Union Junior Thunder. And watch out for them. And if you're a player that he identifies it, like, this kid's ready, or let's get him in a game and see, let's get him in practice. Like, they would come up in practice with us all the time, and it was an open door. Like, bring guys anytime you want. I want to see them. I want them to get that experience. I want them to get at this level, even if they are really young and not ready. Let's get them up here. And, that's important. So obviously with that, yeah, these boys made it. It was a seamless jump. Obviously Walker, like, it was like he's been in the league already. The way he played, and he was just ready. He was ready for it. And Michka did a great job. We obviously tendered him, and he's signing. And again, a small, shifty, quick forward that's going to bring some offense to our lineup. And again, where is he coming from? So the P is a great league, and there's a lot of great players in it. And over the years, my time in the league, like, I've always brought P guys in from wherever. And that goes with the relationship with other coaches that I have in the league, right? Like, I'll give a kid a chance. I always give a kid a chance, and that's important. Like, you don't know, right? Diamonds in the rough sometimes, and I've kind of had that knack to do that, and help these players develop and amplify their game, right?
Yeah, it's what you look for, and ultimately that the goal of moving guys on, giving them chances, and we definitely try to embody that here at the
Yeah.
EHL. So being in junior hockey for as long as you had, pretty much a decade now, and EHL for nearly that, coaching at the college level. It seems like we get new news about junior hockey every single week. So, how can the coaches at this level stay on top of this environment?
Yeah, I think we do a great job communicating with each other. Obviously we have our coaches group, on the phone, and anytime there's something breaking, or a new thing coming out, or a new rule coming out, or with the NCAA, like, there's another one that just came out, the 5-and-5, that they're gonna, like, look, it is what it is, and we have to deal with it. But again, like, the EHL, like, we do a great job sticking together. And again, for me, that was important coming back to the league. Even Apple Core, yeah, but coming back to the EHL, obviously, I did my little rodeo in a couple other places, and just the tight knit group. Like, obviously, we get under each other's skins at time, and we have that competitive banter. But when it comes down to, like, taking care of the league and taking care of these players and doing what's right, like, we do a great job. Like, we really do. And that's what, hats off to you guys as staff from the league. Like, you do a great job, like you said, with the P, like, promoting it and promoting our players at the showcases and stuff like this. Like, it's staying up to date on these new changes. And I was talking to Jason Kilcoyne a little bit last night about a couple players and stuff going on, and the recruiting. Hey, how you doing? Is everything going well? And a couple other coaches over the past, like, 2-3 weeks, same thing. Like, how you doing recruiting wise? What showcases you going to? Oh, did you see this? We do a great job, and we have great relationships with each other. Yeah, it's tough, Jake. There is a lot of unknowns, man. Like you said, we could wake up tomorrow morning and there could be something else. You just don't know anymore. And I don't think you're gonna really know for a while, until, like, the dust kind of settles with some of these rules, like, um, how things were really gonna fall in place, and what's the trajectory of junior hockey, and the different leagues, and college hockey. Like, is the ACHA gonna, get better? Is Division III gonna get better? Like, you don't have that answer right now. But my answer to everything is just do our jobs, keep doing our jobs, stick together, be who we are as a league, and be who we are as organizations and coaches, and that's why we're here. And our job is to help these kids, and um, you know, that's my sole job, to find players, and again, not like just give them advice, and really make that connection. And you're coming here for a reason, and let's get to work and do it. It's going to happen. Just trust the process, right?
I love it. I love it. And I think back to when you first got announced as the Apple Corps coach, and Coach Bart's over with PHC said, all right, thank God they're going to have a good team this year. So we're super grateful to have you back in the E Show. A great year with the Apple Corps, great guys in that organization. And we're looking forward to year 2 of the Fusco era. But thank you for joining us here today. And for the people at home, this is take 2. We had some connectivity issues yesterday.
Yeah.
Shout out Coach Fusco for sticking with us. Thank you, Josh.
Thanks, Jake. I appreciate it, and I look forward to things ahead.
Thanks for listening to The E-Show, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Learn more about us at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on all of your favorite social media platforms. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when our next podcast episode is released.